We've just got a new update on one of the most unusual iPhones Apple's reportedly working on for 2025, the iPhone 17 Air, and it's about something that might make or break this device, the battery life. Because yes, we now have fresh leak claiming the 17 Air is going to pack a battery that's under 3,000 mAh, but don't panic just yet, because apparently Apple's got a few tricks up its sleeve to make this work. Somehow. This leak comes from Instant Digital and Weibo, who's a mostly credible source, but as per with any report, take this with a grain of salt. According to them, the 17 is going to have a battery capacity below the 3,000 mAh mark. Earlier estimates placed it around 2,800 mAh, which would make it one of the smallest batteries in a flagship iPhone in recent memory. Now, the last time we had a sub 3,000 mAh iPhone was the iPhone 12, I believe, which was not known to have terrific battery life. So you're probably worried right now, and rightly so, but Apple believes AI can fix the battery life, oh god. Essentially, with adaptive power mode, which launched with iOS 26, Apple's hoping the magic of Apple Intelligence can make up for the physically smaller battery by optimizing the phone for your specific usage and hopefully ensuring all-day battery life. But I have my doubts about that. But you know what I don't have any doubt about? You taking a minute to click that subscribe button. We're pushing towards 20,000 subscribers and every single one helps. It's totally free, it supports the channel, and it means you won't miss any updates as we get closer to the iPhone 17 launch. I've got loads more videos coming about the iPhone 17, so join the ride early. Anyway, before we get deeper into my concerns about battery life, let's rewind a bit and look at what else the iPhone 17 is going to offer, because this phone is more interesting than the usual spec updates we've seen recently. Let's start with the design. This is expected to be Apple's slimmest iPhone ever. We're talking 5.5mm thin, thinner than the bendy iPhone 6 and thinner than even the M4 iPad Pro. And I know that may make people nervous, but do remember the M4 iPad Pro was actually stronger structurally despite it being thinner, and so if Apple can make a wafer thin iPad feel solid, I'm hopeful the 17 Air won't fold in half in your pocket. The size is rumored to be right between the standard and Pro Max sizes at 6.6 inches, which would put it in that Goldilocks zone for a lot of people. Not too small, not too huge. That's what she said. But the real talking point is the weight and thinness. This will be the thinnest and lightest iPhone ever. Essentially Johnny Ive's design dream come true. And because of that razor thin design, compromises had to be made. Aside from the battery, there's going to be one main camera on the back of the device, a 14-megapixel main sensor, likely similar to what we currently have on the 16 Pro, but honestly, that's not a bad thing. The ultra-wide is nice, but let's be real, the main camera is the one people use 90% of the time, and since it's 14 megapixels, you still get the solid 2x crop without needing a dedicated telephoto lens. Even better, we're getting a whole new camera module. Based on an alleged leaked design of the 17's backplate, thanks to Majimbu, the phone will have a pill-shaped horizontal camera module pushed right to the top of the device. It's very reminiscent of the Pixel series, or even the old Nexus 6P, and yes, it looks really clean. After years of the stovetop layout, it's refreshing to see something new. That alone is going to make this phone stand out. Of course, the horizontal bar design isn't coming to the Pros or regular model. Apple's stuck with the triangle layout on the Pros partly because of technical reasons, spatial audio, seamless lens switching, and equal focal distances. A horizontal layout breaks asymmetry, so unless they figure out clever engineering workarounds, I doubt we'll see it cross the range. Still, for the Air, it's a bold change and one that gives this phone a distinct identity. And talking about identity, let's talk about materials. The 17 is rumored to adopt a dual material build with aluminium and titanium, which is going to help with the strength of the device. This means this phone will technically be stronger than the 17 Pros, which is switching to aluminium fully, but with the Air being so thin, I can understand them using titanium on this. The Air is also getting its own exclusive finishes. According to a leaked internal document, it'll come in black, white, light blue, and light gold. Now, this light blue is said to be based on the sky blue color from the M4 MacBook Air, which makes perfect sense since this product also falls under the Air category. It's a soft frosty blue that should pair really well with the lightweight look and feel of the Air. And here's where things get weird. We're hearing the phone might be eSIM only globally, not just in the US at the iPhone 14 and above, now for most of us. And that isn't a massive issue in my opinion. eSIM adoption has grown a lot, and in the UK and Europe support is getting better, but if you travel frequently or rely on swapping SIMs, this might be annoying. Another rumor? No bottom speaker. Apparently the earpiece is going to double as a mono speaker, That's interesting. We'll have to wait and see how that sounds. Apple doesn't usually compromise on audio, so either this is wrong or they've engineered a solution that doesn't sound terrible. But let's get back to the internals, because despite this phone having a thin profile, it's still going to be packing a punch. This will get the A19 chipset and 12 gigs of RAM. We have heard about vapor chamber cooling coming to the Pros, but I'm assuming the Air won't have the physical space for that, so maybe we'll see a copper heatsink instead, similar to the M4 iPad Pro to help with thermals. Also, a 24 megapixel selfie camera is coming. Yes, 24 megapixels. That is a massive upgrade. We haven't seen the front-facing camera get a massive increase in years in terms of megapixels. I know the sensor size itself won't be changing, but regardless, for FaceTime, selfies, and even TikTok, this could be a low-key killer feature. And yes, we need to talk about the display, because according to some sources, the 17 is going to have a 120Hz panel. You heard me right. Apple might be giving promotion to the mainstream, and while I haven't minded 60Hz on the non-Pro phones, it's about time Apple brings over 120Hz, considering it's a norm across the industry for all flagships to have a high refresh rate panel. But I don't think the displays on the base and Pro phones are going to be identical. I do reckon the Pros will have higher brightness, and maybe they'll software lock the always on display, which I actually don't care about. I turned off my 14 Pro Max's always on display because it was a massive battery hog, so I wouldn't miss it. Now, coming back to battery life, here's where things get a little spicy, guys. A report from The Information earlier this year claimed the 17 Air would have worse battery life compared to existing iPhones. Apparently, internal testing showed only 60 to 70% of users could get through a full day of usage without needing to recharge. That's down from 80 to 90% Apple usually targets. So while iOS 26's adaptive power mode is promising and could dynamically adjust performance, brightness, and refresh rates depending on your habits, it might not be enough for everyone. And that's where Apple's fallback solution comes in: a new battery pack. Yes, the MagSafe battery pack is back and has returned for the first time since the iPhone 12 series. It will likely use USB-C instead of Lightning, but will mostly look the same as the previous version, and so while it is an easy way to improve the endurance, you're definitely going to feel the additional bulk. But if you want that paper-thin iPhone and still need juice at the end of the day, this might be your only option. That's funny, you have to make the thin iPhone thicker to make it last a day, essentially making its USB kinda redundant. Which brings us to the big question: who is the iPhone 17 Air for? Because it's shaping up to be a bit of a paradox. On one hand, it has a super premium and thin design, an upgraded front-facing camera, and potentially a high refresh rate display. But on the other hand, it cuts back on a number of cameras, battery capacity, and possibly even audio output. It's not quite a Pro device, but it's not really a base model either. My guess? Apple's betting on a new kind of consumer, someone who values form over function, someone who wants the most elegant iPhone Apple's ever made, even if it means making some compromises. And honestly, that kind of customer may exist. Phones have reached maturity, there's a market for slim, light, and beautiful devices, even if it's not the most powerful. So what do you think? Would you trade off battery life and a secondary camera for the thinnest, sleekest iPhone ever? Do you think adaptive battery mode will be enough to make a 2,800 mAh battery usable in 2025? Let me know in the comments. And if you made this far, thank you seriously. You clearly love these deep dive Apple breakdowns. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It's free, and I'll make sure you don't miss any iPhone 17 news, iOS 26 features, or Apple hardware leaks as we get closer to launch. See you in the next one.